Hello guys and gals, me Mutahar, and today we gotta be looking at what's going on in the weird, wild world that we live in, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Teslas, the cars that drive on batteries or can drive themselves, yeah, those cars are apparently, just poison to own, okay? We're talking about how a brand has significantly destroyed itself in a matter of months, ladies and gentlemen. It used to be like years ago, anytime I'd see like a Tesla on the road, it was like watching a shiny Pokemon, you know? Looking at it in any racing game, I'm like, ooh, there's that car that runs on batteries. Back in the day, I used to be interested in like electric vehicles. I'm like, whoa, a car that drives without putting in fossil fuels? That's crazy.
And then I started driving stick shift.
But usually back in the day, a lot of the, EVs that I saw kind of being sold commercially looked kind of dumb. All right, like honestly speaking, I would say that generally when Tesla first launched, when the actual first Roadster hit the market, when the actual founders behind Tesla, not Elon by the way, but Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning actually created the Roadster, it looked like a pretty interesting car, right? A sports vehicle that drove on batteries. Now, obviously, Elon bought into the company, and of course, as you can imagine, other popular Tesla vehicles started coming out, and really, it started to get more popular from there. This once luxury, still luxury car manufacturer pretty much made a huge name for itself while being one of the youngest car companies pretty much in the world at the time. Now, it's gotten so bad in terms of its actual brand that this image you're seeing right here is actually from a website that used to exist a couple days ago known as Doge Quest. You might be like, what's interesting about this? Well, apparently this website actually leaked the information of Tesla owners. And if you've been wondering why that's scary, well, if you look at Doge Quest's website, these people are protesting also the Department of Government Efficiency. As you all know, Elon's kind of a polarizing figure. He used to be this one billionaire that everyone really loved because, he was making rockets, making electric cars, focusing on the environment. He used to be pretty beloved and generally not without any controversy. Now, the word Elon is kind of either spit on or it's either loved. And Elon is obviously the CEO of Tesla, which has gotten people so riled up against him. Doge Quest is the ultimate hub for enthusiasts of the Doge Department of Government Efficiency. But that's not all. We also cater to Tesla motor owners, providing a comprehensive resource to locate nearby service centers, showrooms, and charging stations. Leveraging the cutting-edge AI algorithms, Doge goes a step further by connecting like-minded Tesla owners with one another. So is this a protest platform? If you're on the hunt for a Tesla to unleash your artistic flair with a spray can, vandalism, just step outside. No map needed. At Doge Quest, we believe in empowering creative expressions of protests that you can execute from the comfort of your own home. And of course, before you embark on a journey, check out the No Trace project, which was something we saw on dark web browsing when they taught you how to commit crimes without getting caught. Now, if you're somebody that wants your info removed from this possible list where damages can occur, absolutely, just provide us with proof you've sold your Tesla. Ooh boy, ladies and gentlemen, as you can imagine, this can be kind of a risky endeavor to go down. Now, you might be like, what kind of spray paint is being applied to these Tesla vehicles, Muta? Well, let's look at some examples together. For instance, have you decided to go supercharging? You might notice a few swastikas out here, ladies and gentlemen. Not exactly super duper fun, okay? You might not want to be charging at a place where you see these wacky signs. Have you bought a Cybertruck recently? Well, if you decided to park it somewhere out in the state of Washington, it seems, you might have swastikas posted all over your cars. Elon over here. Oof, insanity indeed. Have you decided to go to your local Tesla showroom, or did you go to your Tesla Nazi showroom? Yeah, it got to a point where even like Jewish owners of this car just decided to walk out and say, whoa, what's that plus sign doing on my car? This brings up some wild memories. Oof. Now, you know where a design as inflammatory like that doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen? At someordinarygamers.store. Yeah, I gotta remind you that it's actually the last chance to go pick up some of this merch that we've dropped. March 31st is the last day for you to get this beautiful hoodie, and of course our delicious coffee mug if you want to sip coffee, your delicious French roast from the comfort of your own desk. Yes, this VM-ish design of me that glows in the dark is actually available for a limited time at someordinarygamers.store. March 31st. Again, it's a great way to support the channel. channel. I love this kind of merch and I want to do more of it. I want to kind of thematically release more drops. This is the first one we got going on. So if you want to support the channel, if you want to get something nice to wear, it's high quality. I love it. It's got Linux commands on it. So if you happen to have memory loss, you can always look down and notice, ooh, Muda converted me. Now this is how I retain my intellect in the world of the penguin. Ladies and gentlemen, if that interests you at all, if my craziness resonates with you, please check out our merch, support the channel if you want. And that being said, let's get back to the Teslas. Now, if you've been following the Tesla stock situation, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't looking good year to date. So from January all the way to like March, in like 3 months, this stock has dropped 34.6%, okay? Now it's kind of seen a little upward trajectory, but there's a lot of reasons why this stock is dropping, okay? Now obviously in the 5 years just Tesla has existed, if you bought the stock around pre-COVID, which I actually bought a little bit of it, that stock, if you still had it in your portfolio, is worth 771%, even with this dip. But obviously, if you're an investor, you probably don't want to see a fucking 40% drop on your investments whatsoever from this one stock that should technically be rising. Now, obviously, you might be like, whoa, why is Tesla's brand image completely dead? For anybody that hasn't been following, Elon Musk is effectively the current president of the United States, in my opinion. This guy is basically an unelected person of the White House, and he pretty much has a lot of power. He's got a lot of money. He's pretty much in the ear of technically the most powerful man in the world. And when you've got the president of the United States buying your cars at the fucking White House, in some villain way, one could compare Elon Musk to like Saburo Arasaka, okay? This motherfucker is gonna be running Militech. This guy is gonna be running Arasaka Industries of the future. You know, we live in a very interesting time where the big billionaires in our tech worlds are going to actually be the most powerful people that exist, okay? These guys have all the resources, they've got all the real actual power, they've got all the money to effectively fund all of the politicians we have around us. I mean, if you really want to black pill yourself on the world of the cyberpunk future that we live in without all of the cool shit, just seriously focus on what all of these guys are doing and how separated they are from any actual legal consequence. Even if this guy loses all of his money, he's still one of the richest people in the world. You could lose 40% of your stock value, which is where most of your wealth is tied up in, and still be one of the wealthiest guys in the world. That's just how it works, okay? That's the real winners in the story. If anything's gonna blackpill you, it's gonna be that. Now, it's getting to a point that the stocks have been dropping so hard that investors in the company, people that have positions in the company, have said, Elon, it's time to step out and maybe we should get a different CEO. Get somebody that isn't poison to the brand, okay? At least in this situation. Now, the source of these protests come from the fact that Elon's a bit too involved in the government, according to some people, and obviously this is not something that, you know, is flying by with individuals who consider him to be pretty unelected. Now, considering the fact that he's not only close with the government, but the government is also basically committing seppuku in a lot of ways to trim itself down, yeah, it's not a situation that the people protesting against him are super duper happy about. And it's because of these protests that instead of going after, you know, Elon Musk or going after a bunch of people, it's more targeted at the company, which is the source of wealth for Elon Musk, which basically is just going after the guy. And it's actually kind of working in that way, right? Like the stocks are dropping, the value's taken a bit of a hit. It's become kind of an issue to own a Tesla or be at least adjacent to that brand. So when you look at actually what's going on with Tesla right over here, some of their dealerships are getting straight up burned down in the protest against Elon Musk. So people have realized that if you can't hurt Elon directly, you can go right at his actual companies and bring some serious harm to this man's net worth. And because his net worth is tied into it, obviously the more Tesla burns, the more that Elon directly hurts in all of this as well. And so it hasn't just stopped at the showrooms and the corporate offices of Tesla. It started to affect, again, actual people that are just civilian purchasers of the product. I mean, just looking at it, setting these cars on fire, spray painting the offices, I mean, that is just wild shit to see. There's one good comment in this video that kind of like really hits me. I know what vehicles to not park next to until this actually blows over. Now, obviously, I agree with that statement. Teslas have gotten to a point where the vandalism is so high that insurance companies may be questioning their rates with the actual people buying this stuff. So according to the guys over at Inside EVs, insurance premiums could soon be even more expensive.
Now, it doesn't take a Nobel laureate to figure out that, yeah, of course your car's premiums are going to go higher. There's actually one car near me located, like a Honda Civic. I believe it's that specific make or model. I think it's the hatchback version that, at least in the greater Toronto area, has like some of the highest insurance premiums because it's known to be one of the most stolen vehicles out there. And yeah, if that's the case, people are probably going to steer away from purchasing a car where insurance rates are higher than their competitors. Remember, if you live in North America at least, buying a vehicle without insurance is impossible from my understanding. You need insurance alongside an actual car. So if your insurance rates are going to be about the same as your monthly car payments, which in the GTA they can be depending on what you get and where you live, yeah, you might be tempted to purchase another brand. And ultimately, it's the kind of stink that you don't want to have your company, especially when it all relies on you selling volumes of these cars, especially in a market like electric vehicles where you're not selling as much as traditional vehicles still to this day and age. Now, the other thing that I've kind of noticed in regards to a lot of this is the fact that apparently there is a push by the protesters here that if you can push the stock value of Tesla down, I believe to a value of around like $118, you may trigger something known as a margin call. Again, this is not something that I am super well versed in, but I feel like I want to bring it up just because it is something that I saw mentioned. If you bring the stock value down enough, the potential impact involves Elon Musk possibly selling a bunch of his shares because a lot of the Tesla stock is apparently held up in collateral loans, and once a value reaches low, you may be forced to eventually sell a bunch of that stock, and the more of the stock you sell, the further lower it goes, right? So this is not something that overall is good. Obviously, if this trends backward and this whole situation blows over, Tesla could probably return to where it's at, right? Provided there's not other reasons for people to readjust the stock value. It's really the protesters hitting where it's really going to hurt, the actual wallets. Now, obviously, when it comes to a protest, I'm not somebody that is super duper fond of actual, damage being done to, again, private ownership, right? Like people who spend their money to buy these vehicles or worked hard to get these things, I really feel like if you're going to specifically target them, it's just hurting them more than, again, I mean, it hurts the leadership of Teslas, but I don't think it's necessarily great to see vehicles being blown up, entire vandalism being completely okay with, right? When you start to see the term Molotov cocktail and the production of them being shared around so easily on social media, it kind of makes you wonder, right? Like, there really isn't any form of civility in all of this. It's just gotten to that extreme point that we kind of used to think that wasn't going to happen, right? But this is where we're at now as a group of people.
I love this shit too when people key a Tesla in real life too. Like this guy's coming out with his keys, swiping it across a car that is constantly recording your face the entire time. It's kind of insane. The amount of damage that people are doing to this without even thinking and possibly putting themselves into legal issues is actually insane, okay?
One of the wild, goofy takes that I heard was this guy, Tom, who actually runs a publication, straight up right, the first half, I got it, right? It's an unpopular opinion. Destroying random people's car isn't the way to go. It's true, right? Not everyone can just sell their car, and some people have probably bought this before Elon had this massive shift, right? Why even go after somebody who bought a vehicle, their own accord, right? It is what it is. They bought this car long before any of it. And then they started going and talking about dealerships, right? Okay, obviously new cars that somebody just bought a week ago. All of that apparently is fair game. Molotovs are cheap to make. I mean, you read stuff like this and you think, God damn, the world is kind of a little bit fucking unhinged in this regard. And it's not just this you have to worry about. Obviously, playing around with fire like this is not only dangerous, but from a legal perspective, the government's really going after a lot of these people with some pretty heavy charges.
So yeah, we're actually promoting people using Molotov cocktails to set fire to lithium batteries in cars. I mean, what the fuck? Even where I live, this is 20 minutes from where I live in Hamilton. There's a place called Lime Ridge Mall where I guess one big Tesla dealership is at. 80 Tesla vehicles were damaged at a dealership overnight. That's a pretty massive amount of damage. So it's gotten to a point where if you own a Tesla where I live, People are like, yeah, just put it in the fucking garage, okay? Just hide it away, all right? You don't want to be driving the swastika car anywhere. At the end of it, it is actually working against Tesla. People are selling off the stock. People are actually concerned about purchasing Tesla because of the bad brand image associated. I mean, let's say you bought a car for, whatever amount of money. Why would you buy a car from a brand that people have now dubbed the swastika car and are actually openly vandalizing at this point without even thinking of the ramifications? When you could easily buy another car brand that exists and basically gives you nearly the same thing, even if you're looking at EVs. So yeah, it's one of those things where future sales of a Tesla can very severely be accepted. And because of Elon's just antics, there are a lot of people that could have been potential buyers in the future that probably may never choose to buy a Tesla vehicle again, right? They just will probably buy a different car out of pure principle. Even looking at like the US government when it came to like dealing with the actual damages against Tesla, one of the actual AGs, Pamela Bondi, actually straight up said they announced charges against 3 individuals responsible for the violent destruction of Tesla properties. All 3 defendants will face the full force of the law for using Molotov cocktails to set fire to Tesla cars and charging stations. The days of committing crimes without consequences have ended. Let this be a warning: if you join this wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla, the Department of Justice will put you behind bars. Now, according to the Oxford Dictionary, the definition of terrorism is the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims, which kind of fits the definition for what's going on over here. But regardless of where the tomato lies in this, ultimately the brand is so poisoned that people probably will never want to buy a car from this brand again, especially just considering what the antics of the CEO has put and ultimately damaged, again, a pretty, in my opinion, interesting car brand as well.
Now, I don't think the blame for Tesla's slump is all just related to these protests as well, too. I really think, Tesla has always been this overinflated stock. I mean, that's just kind of how, stocks are, especially when a automobile stock like Tesla is valued like a tech stock. Now, the thing is, I think they genuinely do make some pretty cool cars. I like the EV stuff that they do. I think the full self-driving, while it's definitely not what was advertised, I would say, it's still impressive technology to me that a car can at least navigate itself on main roads, highways, and, go from end to end. I think that's all cool tech. I think it's actually one of the things that Tesla was doing that was unique compared to other car brands. But it's a situation where now I really feel like they're the star citizen of cars, right? They've got real vehicles. You can go to their store and buy from a whole inventory of stock. These vehicles, however, are not cheap. They're expensive as well. And full self-driving is an extra 10 grand in some cases on top of the actual base vehicle price. Where we should have been with full self-driving and Elon's history of promises haven't exactly been met. And beyond just the cars you see over here, there are still vehicles that Tesla has been taking wire transfers of up to tens of thousands of dollars for, like the Roadster 2, that still has not materialized. There really isn't any update on this car. They're just basically saying, give us 50 grand and we'll just put you on the list. It's a supercar that has specifications, but no real end goal in sight. Tesla, for me, has been a brand that's kind of stagnated in that department, where they really were one of those brands where every year I would see a new innovation from them. I don't really see much of that same innovation. If anything, I see innovation that Tesla has been reaching for in other car brands as well.
When you go to the real Tesla robotaxi announcements, like the actual posts posted by real Tesla owners, people that are getting rid of all of the actual Kool-Aid, they'll tell you back in 2016, because of FSD, Elon even talked about things like robotaxis, where you could buy a car, you could have people sit in your car, and it would serve as Uber while you weren't using it, right? So you could make a little bit of money on your vehicle. Now, why the fuck would somebody buy a vehicle that is expensive? Even Model 3s can be expensive too. It's not a cheap vehicle by any imagination. You buy the car, you have it sit in your driveway, you're literally sending it out as an Uber. Most people are getting into it, and then there's going to be erratic morons that might throw up in your car, do something stupid. You're really going to risk the resale value of your vehicle. And by the way, trust software to drive it around completely just to make you a few extra bucks on this car. It was a pipe dream that was sold to people without really thinking through it properly. And the thing about it is, nowhere in this entire scenario has any of this actually bled to the actual users that bought into this promise in the first place. Last year, they were facing false marketing claims in the state of California regarding the term autopilot and, of course, full self-driving. Obviously, to any individual, when you look at the words full self-driving, you think to yourself, whoa, I can fall asleep and never have to worry about anything. And people have fallen asleep at the wheel, and Teslas have driven themselves. Obviously, full self-driving is not full self-driving. It's now called full self-driving supervised, meaning that you basically have to pay attention to everything your car is doing while it's driving you. Now, I'm going to give an unbiased review of the full self-driving model. Full self-driving in Teslas are actually pretty cool. The car actually can drive itself from end to end in today's day and age. Now, it does make mistakes. For instance, I had one scenario where the car actually started turning into a wrong lane. So it shows you that if you're going to be driving this car, you probably should be putting extra awareness into how the car is driven in the first place. Because it can make mistakes, okay? And you do have to be there as a driver to basically save yourself. Just today, I literally noticed as I was driving, it almost turned into traffic. Again, maybe its judgment error came in, maybe something was wrong, maybe it thought it could make a turn when I clearly thought it couldn't, but you have to pay attention as a driver. Now, while Tesla's kind of been sitting on their ass writing their FSD software, there's been a lot of other competitors like GM, which have come up with their own Super Cruise technologies that also provide driving assistance on the highways and generally in roads as well. There's Drive Pilot by Mercedes, which apparently, from my understanding, has kind of beaten Tesla in some regards. And of course, we've also got BMW with their own driving assistant tools. So it's not that Tesla is the only kid on the block with a car that can change a lane and drive itself for a little bit. This is a actual, like, big notch on their belt that's slowly being taken away from them. There was a point where Tesla's had this kind of technology on lock, and I guess maybe it's complacency or their focus on other things that aren't, again, what sets them apart from their competition, that has allowed basically everyone else, other actual car brands as well too, people with a lot more decades in the game, to encroach on Tesla's business and provide a comparative product that Tesla themselves don't necessarily have yet. So there's a lot of things why this brand has absolutely been like hitting the rock bottom, and it doesn't entirely have to do with things like the vandalism, right? Even companies like Waymo have come out. And again, while their hardware on their vehicles, as you can see, are definitely more intensive than Tesla, obviously there's more sensors, there's more data that is being captured, there's data that is being probably processed better to a point where the government in this area has basically said no driver needs to sit in that seat to operate this vehicle autonomously. It's this kind of technology, and if this technology gets more compartmentalized, if other companies start encroaching in, it seriously is the biggest threat to Tesla's actual dominance in that EV space, right? People actually have a choice, and that's one of the reasons why the market is kind of correcting them, right? Like, Tesla is an overvalued stock, but it was overvalued because it kind of had that FSD, it had that real exclusive notch in its belt. And while FSD is really good technology, there's still things that aren't like it. It's not going to be a dominance, or at least as much of a dominance as it was before, at least in my opinion, right? But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Tesla is in a weird spot. It is probably one of the weirdest companies to be in. And to give you an honest perspective of it, I am somebody that thinks that a lot of Elon's companies are kind of cool, right? Like SpaceX, I think, does some cool stuff. Obviously, Tesla, I think, has done some really cool stuff with vehicles, especially, hyper popularizing EVs to a point where not everyone used to laugh at them. Now they're pretty respectable in the game. It has done cool things with technologies like full self-driving and autopiloting, even though that I feel it's more complacent nowadays. It's still cool stuff that they did. But obviously, this is a great example to show you how, again, leadership like Elon and not thinking your stuff through properly can lead to your brand absolutely dropping down to nothing, and it basically being just complete poison. It used to be that these were the shiny Pokemon of cars out in the wild. Then they started to get really popular, and now, shit, people are afraid to park near them because firebombs be crazy, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because, honestly, it's just insanity. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.